You're typically on Friday. The Friday draft is guys under pressure. The Tuesday draft is essentially the guys who cracked under pressure. The GOATs of the week, not in a good way. Apparently the kids only think of GOAT in a good way. This is GOAT in a bad way. I assume since they didn't send me a trivia question, you're going to be asking me the question today. I'll get it wrong, and then you'll have the first pick.
I have the trivia question, and you are right. I assume that GOAT was in a good way, and then when Stats texted me, it was like, hey, just to clarify, it's GOAT in a bad way. I realized the mistake I made because Mike Florio would never praise anyone for anything, ever. Okay, so the draft question. Ready for it? Yeah, I'm right.
I really like your jacket. That's a great jacket you have there. I love your jacket.
All right, Kenyon Drake was traded yesterday. He scored the TD in the Miami Miracle play last year. 4 skill position players touched the ball on that play, but only 1 is still on the Dolphins roster. Who is that player? I have a hint if you need it.
I don't need it. It's Jakeem Grant.
Nope, you did need it. It's Devontae Parker. You did need it. You are the hubris. Oh, my God.
What was the hint going to be?
He catches passes.
Oh, okay. Well, that's not much of a hint. That's not much. I still would have said Jakeem Grant. I thought that, you know what? If I'm going to be wrong, what the hell? If I'm going to be right, at least it comes off that I knew what I was talking about, even though I didn't. Okay, you get the first pick. Go ahead.
All right, first pick's the easy one. You could see that I was getting frustrated in the first hour about it. I've been frustrated for 2 days. Matt Nagy and his decision-making at the end of the game, his decision-making throughout the entire game is just crazy. And, basically contradicting himself where he says we didn't want to throw, we didn't want to pass, we didn't want to run because we'd give up a few yards. We didn't want to pass because if we took a sack, we would be sacked out of field goal range, even though right before that he had said we already were in field goal range when before they got the 11-yard scramble. Matt Nagy is at a crossroads here because the biggest problem when you have a coach who makes decisions like this and panics is, will he step in front of the podium and say, hey, guys, I screwed up. I messed up. Freddie Kitchens is a great example. He said, I messed up. I got to be better. Matt Nagy goes the opposite route. He thinks he's smarter than everyone. He gets up there and says, no, I would never change what I did. I would do it 1,000 times more. He digs his feet into the sand and he says, I am not relenting at all. The decision-making I made was perfect. That's essentially what he's saying. So he now, when he does that, is opening himself up to criticism and being able to, people go at him because he is saying, I'm smarter than you and I know exactly how to coach this team and everyone needs to kind of go away while I make these decisions.
And he's not going to get the benefit of the doubt from the media in Chicago because there is a contentious relationship there. And there's been a contentious relationship, a contentious vibe between the team and the media generally in recent years. I mean, don't you have to be somewhat accomplished as an organization to be that aloof and standoffish when it comes to the media? And the problem with a coach who doesn't have the media on his side, and this is such an easy thing to do. We are very easily bought as media. Just be nice to us, right? When you act like a hard ass, when you, when you, and I'm not just saying Nagy, I'm saying this is the formula. When you act a certain way and it alienates the media, when things go poorly, they are going to come after you. Unless you win, you're not going to get away with being that way because ultimately this comes down to human interactions. And Matt Nagy's in danger and the Bears are in danger of having the media there rip them even more mercilessly than they currently are. All right, mine, I'm going to go to the Saints-Cardinals game because, we've talked about new coaches making decisions that don't work and then doubling down. 4th and 1 on their own 30. Kliff Kingsbury decides not to punt the ball and then calls up a run into the middle of the line of scrimmage, the teeth of the Saints defense. When that was an opportunity, it was 10-6 at that point, midway through the third quarter. The Cardinals had just gotten a turnover. But what they did by failing to convert there, by going for it and giving the Saints a short field, they took advantage of it. They scored a touchdown, made it 17-6, and that was that. But it was a bad decision. It was a bad call of a play. You've got Kyler Murray there, a guy you've called a generational talent. Keep the ball in his hands from more than just a handoff from under center. And look, I'm not saying the Cardinals would have won the game, but it wouldn't have been 31-9, and they may have had a chance to take the lead or at least make it more interesting down the stretch than it was. And then after the game, doubles down, no regrets, analytics back me up. all the things instead of, you know what, maybe I shouldn't have done that. Maybe that was a turning point from a momentum standpoint, because it was. The game changed at that point, and if they had just punted the ball, they maybe would have had a chance to keep it going.
I have no problem with that play call. You're so wrong on that. When you're an underdog, when you're a double-digit underdog in someone else's stadium, you have to take your chances. You have to take your shots. You're not going to win that
30.
game.
You still got 70 yards to go.
Mike, you're not going to win that game playing straight up. You're not going to win that. You need to steal possessions.
It's 10-6.
You can say the play call might not have been great, but going for it there, I have no problem with
the whole thing.
You would bash a guy for being too conservative there too, and so this is double speak.
Not
I'm
on your
totally
own 30.
in on this.
It's 10-6. 10-6.
Don't care.
Midway through the third quarter.
Got to take shots.
Well, how did you feel about Mike Zimmer going for it? Well, we argued about that on Friday. You liked Mike Zimmer going for it on 4th and short from his own 35? You liked that? You did.
Well, that's a different way.
That's why you liked it. He said it was the dumbest decision he ever made the next day.
But that's also a totally different circumstance, because the Vikings are going to win that game no matter what going away. And the Cardinals are an underdog, a double-digit underdog in New Orleans. You have to take your chances. You have to do something to tilt this game. If he gets that and they go down and score, he's a genius. So I don't like that by you. That's a terrible pick. All right, my next pick.
All right, make your next pick.
I'm going to go with Andy Reid. And look, Andy Reid had a nice game with Matt Moore, makes Matt Moore look good. I'm not even going to go at him for the decision to punt the ball with 5 minutes left and they don't get the ball back. By the way, Matt Nagy, learn from your mentor. Andy Reid in the press conference after said you could see it both ways. You could debate it both ways, that decision to punt the ball. He totally understands that he'd be second-guessed there. That's how you do a press conference when you say that. When you say, hey, look, I understand why people would think that was the wrong decision. But my problem with Andy Reid and the GOAT is the play clock. The time, Andy Reid versus time, is one of the greatest rivalries. Actually, you know what? It's not a rivalry, because time keeps winning, Mike. And Andy Reid not being able to figure out how the clock works at the end of games is insane. I do not understand it. He is one of the best coaches of all time, and he doesn't know how the clock works. He calls a timeout with 2:41 left when the Packers had to run a play before the 2-minute warning, essentially gifting them 40 seconds. If he saves the timeout, if he lets the Packers have to run a play before the 2-minute warning, he then gets the timeout on the other side of the 2-minute warning and could potentially get the ball back with 1:50. Instead, he burns 40 seconds, not understanding simple math. Andy Reid, you need a clock coordinator. Figure it out. You need a clock coordinator.
It is amazing to have a coach who is so accomplished, has enjoyed so much success over the last 20 years, and would have a flaw like that just can't be fixed. Like, so, what happens in those moments on the sideline? And it proves something that I've always said. These games take on a life of their own, and when you're in the middle of that, when it's happening, it's so different than if you're watching it on TV. That it's so easy to get lost in everything that's going on that you just don't make a rational decision.
That's exactly right. So I had a friend who pointed out to me after I mentioned it on Sunday's Pardon My Take that actually Andy Reid, as smart as he is with football, we actually as fans know how the clock works more than he does, because we watch every single game and we watch every single late game situation, whereas Andy Reid watches a lot of film and he only is in the game situation when he's in the game situation. On a Sunday afternoon, you're watching 10 2-minute warnings hit, and you're watching all these times where the clock comes into play. Andy Reid isn't watching that as much, so we actually are better at clock management than Andy Reid because we have more practice by just watching it more than he does.
And we play Madden. I'm not being facetious. That's part of it. You play Madden, you understand how to manage a clock. That's an easy, transferable aspect of the video game to the actual game. Managing the clock and working your timeouts and making sure you get the ball back or you keep the other team from getting the ball. All right, next one for me, I got to go with Freddie Kitchens. We talked about it earlier in the show. This whole I'm just learning as I go. And also, it's an extra GOAT award because on Friday he came out and he was just flat out angry with the media because of the way the media had interpreted the things that Jarvis Landry had said the day before when he said, we're going to win the game. It's what Jarvis Landry said. It was a fair characterization of what he said. And that just had me in a salty mood about Freddie going into the week. But when you throw on top of it, deliberately taking a penalty on 4th and 11 when your punt team goes out there, because you didn't tell your sidelines, don't send the punt team out there, and then you take the penalty so you can go for it on 4th and 16. That's even though they weren't going to win that game, goat horns for Freddie Kitchens.
Okay, I like that. Yep.
All right, let's do this. Let's do this because we're going to run out of time.
I'll give you my quick one.
Let's pause.
Yeah. Oh, I'll give you a quick one.
You want to do a quick one?
Yeah,
All
Vic
right,
Fangio. Vic Fangio, everything Joe Flacco said was correct. You're a 2-5 team. You got to be more aggressive in that situation.
All right, quick one for me. Adrian Hill. He was the referee in the Titans-Buccaneers game, and even though he's not the one who blew the whistle, the explanation he gave afterward, the quick whistle is the kiss of death. It took away a potential victory from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The ball was out on that fake field goal that Brett Kern was trying to run for the first down. They blew the whistle. They killed it. It's the third time, I think, this year that it's affected a game. Whatever happened to letting it all play out, Adrian Hill's the crew chief. He's responsible for making sure his people know not to blow the whistle. They failed. He gets the goat horns.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.